Okay. I will call the meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals and Adjustments to order. It is Thursday, April 15th, 2021. We have a quorum present with members Davis, Noel, and Carrie Johnson attending virtually on video, and then members Potts and member Zeman are attending via their phone on the GoToMeeting platform. Notice of the meeting had been posted as required. And at first, I'd call the meeting to order and ask, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Noel will move to approve the agenda.
Motion by Noel. Is there a second?
Andy will second.
And a second by Davis. All in favor of the agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, we have an agenda. The minutes from the March 9th meeting are in the packet for your consideration and review. Would anyone be inclined to move approval or note any omissions or alterations that are necessary?
Larry would like to move for approval.
Motion by Potts. Is there a second?
Carrie Johnson will second.
Carrie Johnson, second. All in favor of the minutes as presented, say aye.
Aye.
The minutes are approved. At this point, it's time to hold a public hearing regarding a variance that was a variance petition that was submitted by Danby Building LLC. They have purchased the vacant property on Galt Street that's being assigned an address of 1675. They are requesting a variance from the side and rear yard setbacks to allow establishment of a building within 15 feet of the rear and or side lot lines. They will meet the front yard setback off of Galt Street. My copy, I don't have numbered pages, but there's an overhead photo that shows the preliminary, and you'll note that the western 30 feet of this property is actually what would be considered to be Galt Street right-of-way. And so on Monday night, Danby Building LLC dedicated that 30 feet as part of Galt Street right-of-way. So that would have been appropriate, and the property to the south has the same condition, and we will attempt to remedy that at such time as it would be either further or redeveloped.
Okay.
But to grant a variance, there's a three-part test, as it was explained in the League of Minnesota Cities material. The first one is the use reasonable. And the Planning Commission determined that given that the use was listed as on the roster of permitted or conditional uses in that industrial district, that the use would be determined to be reasonable. The second step is to determine the conditions that necessitate the variance. They cannot be caused by an action of the applicant. And before 2008, the city had only one industrial zoning district. In 2008, we separated. So the North Business Park or North Industrial Park, where Rivers Edge Hospital is more of a kind of an office or business park, and we want to have that appearance with grass and attractive buildings. The Alumacraft Public Works area, what was part of the original industrial, is now called the general industrial, and the standards are somewhat a little bit less for the condition. And one of the ways the city can control the North Industrial Park is the city owns the property, and conditions are put in the purchase agreement as they would buy property. But in 2008, we did a comprehensive change to the zoning ordinance, basically a complete rewrite. And before 2008, as I read the ordinance, this property would have required no setbacks, zero setbacks, because the only place where it would have butt a residential district would be in the front yard. Prior to 2008, the applicant or Danby Building LLC could do exactly as they are planning without any Planning Commission or Board of Zoning Appeals or City Council action. In 2008, we also established a minimum lot width of 150 feet. This lot, as 120 feet, then became a legal non-conforming piece of land based upon action of the City Council as we amended that ordinance. I'm not suggesting under any circumstances that the amendment wasn't necessary and appropriate, because it certainly was. But given that the circumstances that necessitate the variance were caused by a change in the ordinance, it could be determined, and the Planning Commission did determine, that the actions were not a result of the applicant. The third step then is, will granting the variance alter the essential character of the neighborhood? And again, the Planning Commission determined that it would not, given that most of the industrial properties were developed under the confines of that previous ordinance, and many of them do have the setbacks that are certainly less than 25 feet, many of them at the 15 and 20 foot. At the end of their meeting, the Planning Commission did unanimously recommend the Board of Zoning Appeals grant the variance. At this point, I'm going to open it up for public comment, and I think the writing's on the wall. There isn't going to be any since there's no one here, but we need to formally open the public hearing at 5:35. And I would ask, anyone want to make a comment in front of the board regarding the application? Seeing none, I will then close the public hearing, and I'm going to say 5:36. At this point, I'm going to go around with the Board of Zoning Appeals members and see if you have questions, comments, concerns, or anything that you'd like to add to the record. And I'll begin with Chairperson Davis.
As you said, we looked at this before, the Planning and Zoning Commission, and it looks really good, and we were unanimous, so I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, Member Noel.
I have nothing to add.
Member Johnson.
I don't have any concerns. I just wanted to say that I thought that in the packet, Russ, the context you provided with the league's memo and being able to see what the zoning ordinance looked like previously and now really put those the reasonings, the three rule tests into context. So I appreciate that. That helped me understand this better.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to hear that. My job is to make sure that you all have the information you need to make the best decision you can. So thank you, Carrie. Vice Chair Potts.
I guess, no, I think everything looks good here, and I would be happy to take the recommendation of the Planning Commission. Yeah, so I'm fine with it.
Thank you, Larry. Member Zeman, do you have any comments or any questions?
I have a couple questions. Sure. Is this common practice for us to potentially issue, well, first of all, doing this action that we're doing, but also on an industrial lot to allow for construction of a building or whatever they're doing for personal use?
Well, the ownership isn't of concern. It is what the use is. So whether it's owned by an individual, whether it's owned by an LLC, whether it's owned by a commercial entity or a private entity, we regulate the land use and not the form of ownership. So yes, Chuck, it would be appropriate to grant a variance for personal use within the industrial as long as the use is allowed.
So the use is allowed?
Yes, sir.
Do we have any other examples of that type of being done around? Is this something that we've had before?
Yeah, right now the intent is to use this building for personal storage and warehousing and a workshop. Future plans may include adding additional buildings then that could be rented out or leased out as perhaps a man cave type operation, similar to what's built over by Kasota.
No, my question was, do we have any build structures now being used for personal use that are in the industrial zoning?
Not that I could specifically note, but there certainly may be, and I'm not aware of. But again, it's the use that is regulated.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
there's nothing obvious that I'm aware of. To go along with what Chuck was asking, there is an area in the middle of this lot that's sketched out as a paved parking lot. Is that an immediate plan, or is that, do you suppose, a plan for possible future expansion into something that's more like a business?
Exactly. If he were to add additional buildings, he'd perhaps envisioned a total of 4, including the one that he would have himself. And so if he goes ahead with the development of the full site, then yes, it would necessitate a parking area. Each building, if it's served with water and sewer, would have to have a separate line. So the plan would bring one main off of Galt Street, and then 4 spiders would come off of that line that would come into the property.
Okay.
All right. I've got a couple more. The county lists this, and I don't care who the owner is, but my memory serves me, this property was for sale here, or is changing hands here right at this time, or
Yep.
has recently?
Yep, I believe they closed on the sale last Wednesday, Chuck.
Okay,
Before that, it was owned by Bob Dagazell, and he'd been marketing it for years.
right. Yeah, there's been a sign there for quite a while. They've owned it since 2015. So the people that bought this, they were aware that, you know, they had to go through all of this first. Even though they bought it first, what would have happened if we wouldn't approve the change or the use?
I can't speak for the applicant, but I think he was confident and comfortable that he met the 3-point test and that he'd likely be entitled to a variance.
Okay, are they building a new building here? Do you know?
No, this would be a building that would be moved in on the site from the former Lake Washington Marine, the operations that were at 1005 Old Minnesota. It has been inspected, as is required if a building's going to be moved into town or from site to site in town. And Kevin has noted any code deficiencies that would need to be addressed before it could be issued a certificate of occupancy.
Okay, so with the permit for bringing that in, is there an end to the permit as far as when this thing has to be done, completed, instead of having it sitting on the skids and everything else that it's been sitting on now for a few days?
Yeah, I wouldn't let them move onto the site until they had the variance hearing. So if this is approved tonight, Chuck, I believe that I won't say by the weekend, but I would certainly expect within a week or two it would be on the new site.
No, but I'm talking about on the new site or completed on the new site.
Probably on the new site, subject to having the foundation and such constructed. He's looking to get a moving permit, and then obviously he needs a building permit along with that.
Right. So there is a restriction on the building permit for what, 6 months that it has to be done? Otherwise they have to get a renewal?
A building permit is good for, yes, exactly 6 months, and it is renewable at the option of the building official, I believe.
Right. Okay. Well, I just don't like these situations where somebody gets this piece of property and, you know, evidently they felt comfortable, like you said, buying it before they even got approval on any of this stuff. But then also, you know, I don't want to see that building that's up on whatever moving equipment there now sitting on this lot forever, you know, without doing anything about it.
Yep, we had that situation with the former Nielsen Chevrolet office. It sat out in the industrial park for 5-6 years, maybe.
Probably.
Yeah,
probably. So do we have any recourse to from that regard?
If it helps any, I was down there today, and there are flags set to mark the utilities and everything, and it looks like there's something going to happen pretty soon.
On which one? The new property?
On the new lot that we're talking about approving tonight.
Okay. All right. Well, like I say, I just know that the one that Russ referred to was an eyesore for many, many, many years.
Oh yeah, I agree.
And, you know, and I don't want this thing sitting there forever. You know, but I don't know what recourse, as I asked, what recourse do we have to control that? So.
Yeah, I do believe the applicant intends to undertake some alterations to the exterior to improve the appearance. He also looks like he's going to put a little porch on the building. Yeah, I would think that it would certainly be more attractive than it is at its current location.
Yeah, I don't have any problem. I just, to have this thing sitting, like I say, if nobody's been by there, sitting like that and dragging it over there, and then with this other experience that we had quite a few years ago now, it just sitting there. It looks terrible. And I know the permits, nothing says that they have to go get a permit. They can get a permit to go move it, but nothing says that they have to have a permit. I mean, they could have it sit there forever. And that's a concern I have. I mean, eventually they'd have to get a permit for placing it, I would think. But just to move it, I don't think they have to get a building permit.
No, he's got an application for a moving permit at this point.
Right.
And then he'll be working with Kevin to get the full building permit when he gets the foundation.
All right.
Bolton
I just want
to. He's retained Bolton and Mank to do the stormwater design.
Okay.
And so it'll meet all those requirements as well.
Okay. All right. I just had concerns.
I'm going to go one more time, but if you have anything to add, just turn on your microphone. I think we can manage it that way. Hearing and seeing no one. I got a packet that doesn't have page numbers. I don't know if yours do, but the resolution is the last 2 pages. And the resolution then would provide for the variance as has been recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Would anyone be inclined to move the resolution?
Andy Davis, would move the resolution as is printed on pages 25 and 26 of the packet.
I panicked because I don't even have the login information on the front of my agenda packet. So I was really glad to see all of you. We have a motion by Davis. Is there a second?
Larry seconds.
We have a second by Potts. It'd be appropriate to go around one more time and see if there's any discussion. And again, just turn on your microphone. Hearing and seeing nothing, then I will call the roll call, and I will begin with Member Noel,
Aye.
Member Carrie Johnson,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Potts,
Aye.
Member Zeman.
Aye.
Chairman Davis.
Aye.
Thank you all very much. I do not have anything else for the good of the cause or for an agenda. So would anyone be inclined to make a motion to adjourn?
Noel will
Very
make a
good.
motion to adjourn.
I'm going to go with
Johnson will second.
I'm going to go with Noel and Johnson. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
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 We are adjourned. You all have a very, very wonderful evening. And thank you for your attendance tonight.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
I got to go stop the
Bye-bye.
recording on Cindy's computer. So.
Night, everybody. Are there hoodlums on the step?